So I'm re-recording audio on this particular video. We're starting out, and it's called Mohnton or Motown. It's Mohnton. We were doing a delivery for the event collective, and I was the passenger, and I figured it was a really scenic, beautiful drive. We actually go through a village that I'm going to talk about a little bit. I did some research to talk a little bit more about its history. There isn't a whole lot, but there's a lot of interesting features. But the homes in that area with the red sandstone are just nuts. It's just such a really pretty village, and I figured let's redo it. And it was in this truck, so it's a lot louder, so it was hard to see. But that's pretty cool there. It's like we figured that was an ice house because they either had spring houses or ice houses back then. And with it being right near a pond, chances were that it was probably an ice house. Um, but anyways, this is a really neat trip. We go from Mohnton or Mohnton, sorry, and go in through Alleghenyville and then eventually make our way to Adamstown. That's where the video will end. But we'll go into Alleghenyville. This was a village that originally they wanted to call it Horningstown because the founders would have been the Horning family, but they found that there was another post office with a name that looked very much alike, so they decided let's not do that and let's name it after the local creek, the Allegheny Creek. Now, Alleghenyville does have a slightly different spelling than the Allegheny Mountains, which are in western Pennsylvania going down into West Virginia. So I sort of thought, like, what's the spelling? And yeah, so it's odd. I thought maybe it had a different pronunciation, but it's actually from the Lenape or Delaware Indians. They it has a couple different translations. A fine river is something. Another one has to do with a rolling sort of river going through, and then people that came far away, which I don't understand that definition in connection with the other ones having to do with a river, and it's just randomly, hey, here you go. It's a very different definition, but anyways, so we'll be coming up to Alleghenyville here shortly. But anyway, so they decided to go with the definition, or the name of the town would then be uh, based upon the local creek instead of after the founders. It's just one of those things because so many other towns, like we've talked about before, wound up running into issues in that regard, and they decided to go that direction. There's another really pretty house. There's just so many of them here you can look at on either left or the right side of the road. They're just absolutely stunning. Um, but anyways, one thing is a cool thing to note before we get to the town, because we'll talk more about, which we're probably coming right up on it now. There was a prolific artist. They called him Papa Brendel Horning. So he's from this Horning family, and I guess he lived late 1800s, about 1986. So he was a prolific folklore artist, and he really liked to do this church that'll be coming up in Alleghenyville, which I believe is the Alleghenyville or Allegheny United Church of Christ, which would have been a Union Church, Reformed Church, more beautiful houses. And he painted everything in that church from the pews to each of the cemetery. This is a church right here. And apparently, it's a mirror image of another church in Exeter Township. And that right there across the street, that was the one room schoolhouse. And it's funny because they said that the church was there first, so the roads sort of had to go around it, which is why you have these sort of weird curves because you had the schoolhouse on one side, so they had to go through. And on the right hand side is the original general store, which I'm not sure if I put my camera over there or not, which I didn't. But it was really cool because it's just like this, Victorian era color, orange yellow, and just stunning. But anyways, that church has a ton of history, and this guy painted everything from the cemetery stones to just normal feature type things in the church, and apparently is quite renowned. I had never heard of him before this. And there is also another building which we will go back and visit, Alleghenyville, because I'd like to do more on the history of that village because there's apparently quite a bit there. There is a Mennonite meeting house that's down the road that is on the National Registry of Historic Places that they said is really built back in the 1700s and it's a phenomenal building. But I love this area. It is southern Berks County. It's right up against the Lancaster County line, and it's just such a stunning area. I love this stone that's sticking out right there. But anyways, so I'm gonna let you enjoy this trip a little bit, and I'm gonna have some music playing, and then we'll go from there. So we are back, and we are going along here. We went through a couple other towns there, and more fun, more of these cool houses along here. It's not like Alleghenyville was definitely very unique. It's not. I remember the trip that Ralph and I took, the New Hope, and yeah, that place. I thought this was particularly cool right there. But we came up on that one village. I think it was like Cutlersville or something like that. It's either Cutlersville or Carsonville. I forget which one it was. But it just sort of like the road weaved back and forth. And it was sort of almost, I don't want to say mountainous, but it was just really cool. Um, and they had in that place, I want to go back there because they have a really old hotel there. I think that's also on the National Registry of Historic Places. And it's just, it's been there since the 1700s, and, goodness knows what it's all seen throughout that time period. But it's just a really neat towns that you have all throughout, really all throughout America. And you just think about, that small town America, what they've all seen and the history and the stories that could be told, and really is fun, like going for these drives. And it's like I figured I'd take advantage of this and film while we were driving back. We were actually driving over to Ephrata because we were going to try to pick up some chairs there, and then unfortunately it didn't work out. I wanted to get out there, but my legs were so tired because they had this huge war memorial over at Ephrata High School, and it was really quite neat. And I was like, I should get out. I should at least take a photograph of it and stuff like that. But I was just like, the van's so high, or the truck van, and I was just like, nope, I'm done for the day. So, but anyways, let's go into a little bit more music. So we're coming up on the last leg of our journey, and we're coming up here on Adamstown, I believe now. One thing that's cool about Adamstown is a lot of people joke about it being the antiques capital of the world because it just has so many antique shops. Really is a neat place. We come up on a couple. I think one we're coming up here on shortly. Mad Hatter Antiques, I believe. Sort of almost looks like it's shut down, but apparently it isn't. But yeah, there's so many cool different shops here. I don't know if it's Antiques Mall there. We're at the beginning. They have a Sinclair sign for the gas station. I always love like the dinosaur, and I think the Toy Story movies sort of make fun of that a little bit. They have their gas stations with the dinosaur on them, and everybody say that's a connection to the dinosaur, uh, the T Rex in the Toy Story movies. But it really is. It was a very pretty drive, and it was a lot of fun coming back and doing this, and just seeing the scenes and all that kind of different stuff. And I really, it's quite cool going along this road and the path here, and we'll be doing more of these. And just as we have a number of things coming up with the channel that I think will be pretty cool. Cliff and I think I mentioned a couple times, we're going to be doing, and Lewis can't make it on that one, but we're going to go to Schaeferstown. Historic Schaeferstown has, it's called the Cherry Festival. And it also has like the old world craft type thing, festival and fair. So we'll be doing that. I just did with Lewis, I did the historic old Annville days. That was a phenomenal experience. A lot of people, we were fortunate, we showed up early, and we missed the crowds because they said, oh, it's like 6 to 8 thousand people, and you're like watching it, and when you're there, and you're like, it's a lot of people. But then all of a sudden the crowd showed up, and it was nuts. I was happy. I only had to park about maybe 2 or 3 blocks away, and the walking, I was pretty tired by the end of it, but it was a really cool experience. And then later in the day, I went down to Swatera State Park, and they have the Bear Hole Trail, which used to be Old State Road, where the Bordner cabin is. They have a drive-through, which is for anybody, but it's especially nice for people like myself that have a little bit of a handicap. So it's easy to not having to do that long hike. But we are here at the end of the video, and I want to say thank you as always for coming along, and we'll see you all about town.